Welcome, everyone. A special rendition of the Your Little Castle show. We are celebrating 100 leaders that we have highlighted on our show here on the Your Little Castle show. Celebrating 100 different guests. Most of these guests we have on for a full half. Only a couple times have we split the show up for about a 15-minute segment for each. But because of the expertise these leaders share with our community, we're always here to give them full attention. So we ask you to take some notes because we're going to replay any number of selections from our 100 plus guests, some 75 shows or so that we've had on ABC now. Get out your pencil and take some notes as we can show you some of the greatest leaders in our communities. And they're from all over the world and mostly here from the Midwest and St. Louis. So with that, enjoy. Here comes the fun for you. Get up. And I started researching about how I might be able to replace the springs myself. And I'm like, people have bad things happen to them when they try to install their own springs. But that's why you need experts to do this. And that's what Renner Garage is. Tell me a little bit about why you love working with Renner Garage and why you've been there so long and what you guys do.
Well, I'm actually third generation of the company. My granddad started it, Gene Renner. My aunt is, she's the boss right now. She's the president, Denise Doms. Third generation is myself and my cousin. So I usually make a joke about how we're going to try not to tank it because that's kind of the reputation that third generation gets. But I think we're in a good spot. We have very little ego. We're not afraid to get our hands dirty. Thankfully we were both brought up to where we're expected to earn it. So I remember being younger and kind of coming to realize that my granddad has a little bit of money. And I forget how I asked him, but it was something like, "Hey, Granddad, I could use some money." And he said, "Well, we could use some help out in the warehouse,
right? Okay,
packing some hardware cartons." And I'm like, "Okay, so that's how this works." Okay, got it. So
you got to earn a living these days.
Yeah.
Something that we need to pass from one generation on to the next, and being as long as you guys have been in business, something you guys are doing a good job of already. All right, with that, everybody, a little more excitement here. We'll skip to our next interview. Some more excitement from other leaders in our community. And this show was really exciting because these are some guys who really do great work. We're celebrating 50 years now in business. This is Coach House Garage. And boy, do they know their stuff. Enjoy as we continue with these guys on the Your Little Castle show.
Gadberry was a local businessman who sold cars in Mount Zion, Illinois, and he needed a building built. We called Willis, and Willis said, yes, we could do that. And weeks later, we showed up, built this office building for a used car business. At one point, Roger said to Willis, "Well, we could be building garages like, where the walls are all panelized, come out, it's like a big tip one, and it's done rather quickly." And so there was born the idea of the garage business.
Well, I mean, the garage business is something like I talked about. How many houses don't have a garage? And I guess that's part of what you're filling the gap for, because some of your older houses may not have had a garage when they were initially constructed, but these automobile things started catching on. Is that the primary function? I mean, I don't want to sell it. It's just the only thing you do, but it's a key thing because that's what goes into a garage these days, right?
Yes. The garage, is mostly for the car, but we've expanded to where we're doing, it may be an additional family room off of the house, place in the garage, a place where you can go, where you might not have room in the house to do things, workshops, that kind of thing. But it's evolved to man caves, sheds, whatever that may be.
Okay, I like some of that. Dennis, tell us a little bit about why you enjoyed.
Well, an interesting fact, when I started selling last year, not really realizing the niche that they had, most of the older cities were designed small lots, houses, alleys, garages. So we provide garages in Indiana, Illinois, in Michigan, I believe, Iowa, and St. Louis. So when I started looking at the layout of the cities, especially St. Louis, and realizing the entire city scope is based upon that concept. So there's a lot of garages to build in the city because everybody's on an alley, everybody's on a small lot, everybody's got a garage off of an alley. And I think a lot of that born into the fact that there's a real niche for this product.
Well, true. I believe it's obviously something that makes a difference or that house. I mean, it adds a huge resource. I mean, I'll throw a tangent into this if it's all right with you guys. When you're doing an evaluation of a house, an estimate, appraisal, this gets included in the value of the house, right? It's on the property. Sometimes it's attached, sometimes it's separate. Most times, I guess, most of what you guys do, are they separate from the rest of the house, or how do you guys build them? Everything I've seen looked like it was detached.
They're both. We do attached garages and detached garages. And you're right, it does add value to the house. Currently, the economic situation that we're dealing with, now is a good time as any to invest in a home. Compared to, real estate isn't quite as busy as it was a couple years ago, so it's an opportunity to build that garage at your house, add value to your property, and it really does add value.
Dennis? So there you go, everybody. Great information from our experts again, because it is important to have a nice garage to take care of your car. So we give it up for the Coach House Garage guys. They really do a great job as a matter of giving everybody a nice place to put that automobile so that you can have that in a nice, safe place. Another great interview for everybody right here. Check it out. This is Tony, and she is an expert that you really should listen to what she does. If you ever have to do taxes, this is somebody you'll want to talk to. All right, everybody, take a look. We're here to talk about business tax related stuff. Is that what you're trying to say there? And that's more of where that's what you do. You're helping businesses manage their tax.
Right. I help individuals and businesses, but I like to focus on the business side.
Right.
Yes.
And that's what we want to make sure everybody understands, because like as a business owner, you and I both, we figured out, both did work for a local brewery based out of St. Louis called Anheuser-Busch. Or we overlapped for like 7 or 8 years. We were both there. You were up running the important stuff. I was just making sure everybody got their lunch plans. With people that would joke with me, they're like, Carter, you just make sure everybody gets their lunch plans because you've got to make sure they get their email. I built the email systems there. You did the accounting at a high level to make sure big corporations stay. Some of the stories you were telling me, wow, you were at high levels running around the country, making sure that all the places that.
Well, as an auditor, right? I started off as their internal auditor, right? So yes, I did get to see beautiful places connected to Anheuser-Busch. Because as you know, there's a lot of bars out there and a lot of beer being sold around the world. So whether you're at 7-Eleven, going to purchase your beer, right? Or you are the partner distributing. Sure that the checks and balances are there.
And a very important role. After we start talking, I'm like, wow, you've done so much at a high level. That makes me feel good about recommending, if I said, if you're looking for someone to help your business to understand what they're dealing with, he knows what they're talking about.
Yes, I do. I've been doing this a long time. And the thing is, it comes natural. I started off as a paralegal. I went to school and got an associate's degree there, and I worked with lawyers for a few years, and I think that set the foundation for my compliance work, which then led into which I then started getting into more of the tax side and this.
Okay, well, yeah, we're covering a lot here as we get going. I'm going to bring it back a little bit. It's my fault for going, because I love learning about how to be a successful business person. That's what this show is really at the core of what we're talking about and who those leaders are. So you'll share some of your information with people to understand how you got there and what you did, and then how you help people too, because maybe somebody will decide they want to use your services. But why did you decide to become a business owner?
Well, I had a very successful career. I worked a lot of places. One day, I was given a notice that I was going to be laid off effective that day. So, within 2 hours of leaving there, I held my head up high. I took a scenic drive down the road and asked myself, so what are you going to do now? And I remember even thinking what the options were, because I wanted an answer. I wanted an answer before I went home, because no one knew yet, right? I'm doing this in solo, so, obviously one of the questions are, you can get another job, which, people would, or, are you going to try something different?
Well, some great information there from another expert in our community. Tony Jackson really knows what she's talking about. Another great interview coming up here for you. Stay tuned for this. And we'll talk to another young lady who took over a company that she was actually working for and turned it into a gym, making the best of a situation that made it win-win-win for everybody. So with that, take a listen here. This is Jessica. Giddy up.
When you've got the little, we put this together, there's 9 of them. They look like windows, and like with
Yep.
glass behind it, it looks like we're sitting at the 15th floor of a big building somewhere when you've got great looking windows. So congratulations, great job.
Thank you.
And let's talk a little bit about, like I found was most interesting about what you talked about was how you took the opportunity with something where you saw there was a definite need to help make things go better and turned it into something, and now you have your own company that you've
Yes.
run now for 3 years. Tell me about how that got started and why you decided to do that.
Well, at the time, I was working for another glass company based here in St. Louis, and I was an employee and running a portion of their business. And unfortunately, they went out of business, but obviously there was some time for that to take place. And I saw an opportunity to create my own business. I had kind of a small investment to help out with the company I was working for. And unfortunately, since they were kind of going out of business, I had the opportunity to sort of purchase my book of business.
Okay, well that's a interesting strategy to get involved with a company because
It was
is-
interesting, yes.
I mean, how many people say I can essentially buy into the business kind of thing and then own the book of business that you were probably working on, right?
Yes.
I understand that. Most
Yes,
people, I like
lots of work.
in our pregame prep, we talked about how effectively you talked about the book of business, and that's really why a lot of people, us salespeople, I've been a technical person who just sat behind a desk in a cubicle for many years at a little brewery based in St. Louis for most of that time, a little bit for Citicorp, a little bit 10 years at Anheuser-Busch. And then I decided to get out back into the sales world. I was selling computers while I was going to grad school for Circuit City, which actually paid pretty nicely if you knew how to sell these
Yeah.
things that were $2,000 or
At one
$3,000.
time, I bet it did.
Yeah. But I learned that when you develop relationships, essentially when they hire a salesperson, they're looking for that salesperson to bring in their contacts and the
Yes.
people that they know and the relationships they've developed. And so somebody like yourself who's worked hard, worked on that as an employee, now developed that and said, hey, let's take this thing over and make this thing bigger. I think I can do this.
Yeah,
Tell me about
the
that.
transfer of it was sort of easy because I was the face of that company for my customers at that time. So they were actually kind of excited for me to have my own company, and they really worked with me and the people that worked in that area. So it wasn't just me, obviously. There was a staff that was dedicated to the portion of that business that I was managing. So we all basically moved over to the new company, or my new company, Service Central Glass and Door. So a lot of the customers were very excited for the opportunity.
Well, and again, putting the time and energy and effort into something like that is what makes the world go round, if you ask me.
Yes.
And most people understand that the tax revenue generated, the jobs that are created, all come from small businesses. So that's why we always want to highlight the small businesses, because they're the ones making it really happen. The other benefit a lot of people do realize that comes from small businesses, they're the innovators, right? The big corporations find the innovators and then buy them.
Yes.
Just ask Google. I think they buy like 17 companies a day, or something like that. And it's really because where they're out there being creative and doing something new, they not have all the resources that a big company has. They say, hey, that's a real neat product. That's a neat service that people need. We're going to buy that. So you effectively said, let's keep it going from small business to small business. You guys need some help. I see an opportunity. Instead of us going up and selling some big company, let's keep our thing here going. And now you've done it for 3 years.
Yes.
Tell me about some of the success and how that's been so exciting for you. And we got into some interesting discussion. Now it's almost like, what were we talking about? But it was deep stuff about how you make it happen in the current culture and the world, the way the world is, and all the hurdles that have to come over. And that's just I feel like, oh, it's the most difficult time in the history of the world to start a business because of whatever. I'm like, no, when there was like people running around with axes in like, you know, in the medieval times. That was the worst time to live on this. They just killed you if they didn't
Very
like
volatile.
you, right? Here it's a little more difficult. They don't. I made a joke with my dad years ago. These days they don't just kill people. They just make it difficult on you, right? And that's because it's competition, and the competition forces people to do better. And so other places in the world, and historically, I'm getting kind of weird with our conversation here, but yeah, it was a much more difficult, dark world. A lot of people. So it's actually pretty good. That's what I'm trying to paint the picture of.
Yes.
And so it gives an opportunity for someone like yourself to turn around and do something like this. Tell me more about the path that led you here and why you're doing this thing and why you think you've made it a success.
Well, like I said, I was working for a glass company, so naturally, and I was working there, I don't know, it was maybe 5 years or so at the time when Service Central was generated. And so naturally, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to just stick with glass business because my customer base is accustomed to us doing glass work for them, aluminum frames, hardware, sealant work, things like that.
Wow, so Jessica there gives us quite a bit of insight. It's exciting to listen to somebody who knows so much about starting a business from scratch and really making it happen. But with that, we've got more to share with you, everybody. We're going to bring on a couple more of our past interviews here. There's a lot more excitement, and it continues on. If you want to watch any of these interviews in full, go out to our YouTube channel. You can see all of those out there. But right now, we're going to jump into a guest that's been on our show a few times. This is Charlie Schneider, Schneider Roofing and Remodeling. Check out Charlie here and some of his expertise.
Have someone help you verify that you do have hail damage before just calling the 800 number. So it's always great to pick a roofer that you know and then have that evaluated. And then once that you're comfortable with your roofing company that you picked has estimated that there is damage, the next step would be contacting your insurance company and inviting them out and see if they share that same opinion to find out what the loss is on your property.
Okay, so let's jump in here. I'm going to show everybody this clip we had where we did a little walkthrough. Here we go.
All right, everybody, we're on a roof here in St. Charles. My friend Brooke here, we talked, he's got some damage from the storm, we think, and Charlie Schneider Roofing has come over to check it out. And so, Charlie, tell us a little bit about what you've learned about this roof.
We've already walked around the property and we've determined that there's collateral damage, meaning soft metals are damaged like gutters, downspouts. We saw breaks in the siding. So now we've made our way up onto the roof and we're just kind of seeing what we can find here with the roof and hail damage. So a couple things we're looking for is we're just looking for impalements in the roof. Generally it's gonna make what's called a bruise, and so we found a bruise right here. So you can kind of see where the rocks are driven into the mat, and then if you touch it, it's softer than everywhere else. So this is typical that the hail is going to drive it in. We're going to have granular loss. This is a fresh storm. It only happened about less than a week ago. After 4 or 5 months, this is going to wash out. And a little less here, we can already see that the mat's cracking. We can see our crack and our circular motion. On this particular roof, we've already found stab wounds, which are not typical of hail, but here in St. Charles, the hail was 2 to 3 inches and it was real spiky. So on the back side, which is a little more dangerous to get to for filming, but we found about 5 or 6 stab wounds on the back side, and that he actually already has an interior leak from the stab wounds. So in this particular storm, we're looking for really small holes and stab wounds as well, which I don't see any on this particular slope, but on the back there's plenty of them.
Okay, so yeah, we saw where there's a bunch of damage around the side and on the gutters, and a ton of cracks in the siding. So this is something definitely he should have a professional like yourself look at, and then you'll help him talk to the insurance company.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
So right there, yeah, that explains it. And it's a great example of somebody who actually has had some damage. It might be hard to detect. Tell me a little bit more about that and what you saw there, Charlie.
Yeah, so this one is a little bit newer roof. So new roofs obviously tend to hold up well. So they can be a little trickier, and you need to kind of let your eyes settle in and do maybe a little bit better job of looking for the damage since the roof is newer. And this particular case, we saw some granular loss already. We saw a bruise in just that small little area, which gives us a good idea that we're definitely going to have hail damage throughout the rest of the roof.
Okay, yeah, and it's those things that happen to the roof that seem minuscule that all of a sudden. But I guess the bottom line for people, would it be best to say, hey, if you've had a big storm come through, call somebody that's got as many years of experience. How long has Schneider been in business now?
I think it's 30 something.
33 years, a long time. And that's why you need the guys who do have done this as experts in the community that make a difference and know what they're talking about. So I hope you're taking some notes here, ladies and gentlemen. Some great information. We're going to continue on. There's a lot of great leaders in our community. We want to continue to highlight those because it's important you have the right resources available. Take care of your assets. Take care of your home, your family, and everything you need to live a healthy and happy lifestyle. An exciting interview here. This one was a lot of fun. When you get to talk baseball, you know we're going to have a lot of fun with it. So enjoy this chat we had with the president of the Browns Fan Club and Historical Society.
Joe DiMaggio would come. You know, Bob Feller. They were all here regularly every year. And that really brought a love. You may not like the Browns, but heck, I'm going to go see Babe Ruth, right?
Right.
And Ty Cobb. They all played here. And then, you know, the Cardinals, you know, had their greatness. And, you know, it was a great mutual working together. The Cardinals, you know, took off 26, 28, 30, 31, 34, 42, 43, 44, 46. All those pennants before the Browns left. And there's all these stories that intertwine between the Cardinals and the Browns, that the Browns had opportunities to run the Cardinals out of town, and they just always made the wrong decision. And Branch Rickey was a key part in all of that for the Browns and the Cardinals. But there's just many great men. One of the greatest ever to play the game, George Sisler. 15 men in the Hall of Fame that had ties to the Browns. So it's a great love story for a great baseball time.
Well, I mean, you and I, most often everybody, if anybody's watched our little show here, it's called the Your Little Castle Show because it's all about helping people develop their own little world, their little castle, and all the things that are necessary to do that. So we bring on a lot of businesses to talk about how they contribute to that. But I mean, I got really excited when you said you'd come on the show because baseball is such a rich history in our little country. But the Mecca almost seems like, as I learn more from you, might be right here in St. Louis for a lot of things. I mean, we talked a little bit about this. Like I said, most times I've got a list of things I want to make sure and cover. Ed and I both agreed we were just going to talk.
Yeah.
And see what it is.
But I mean, we are the best baseball town in America. It's identified in other cities. I mean, Bob Costas, who I've worked with a lot, he's been in some of my film. You know, I've got intros where he calls St. Louis the best baseball town in America. And it really is. I mean, you think about it, and we're just not focused on our team. We have opposing teams come in, their players make a great play. St. Louisans stand up and cheer. They recognize baseball and the greatness. We're not throwing bottles at other players or booing them. You know, we recognize what is greatness.
Well, yeah, it literally could go on on that vein forever because you become almost, and I don't want to take anything for granted, especially with regard to how baseball does have such an impact on our culture, our country, and the way people kind of, I mean, it literally, we talked a little about this a lot. I mean, Ed is so knowledgeable. So with that, another great interview. Ed is a knowledgeable and incredibly informed person with regard to all sports St. Louis and can really provide some great insight to the history of St. Louis and what a great city this really is. As we finish up here, it goes quickly. We've only gotten through a few of our shows, but you can see we do have a lot to share, and we want to continue to do so. So with that, we're going to jump into our next interview here. And if you want to watch the list of all interviews, they're across the board on our YouTube channel. Go to that YouTube channel through our website, yourlittlecastle.com. But here's a great interview we had with the Honor Flight here in St. Louis and a lot of the gentlemen that make that happen. So please enjoy this quick interview. We did a whole show about this. We're going to show a segment of it right here.
We're all pretty fortunate to at least allow one of us to go at least once a year.
So you guys are actually on the flights for purposes of keeping an EMT available?
100%. 100%. We at least have a paramedic on site in case there's any problems. And we've actually had a couple instances where there have been medical emergencies and our guys have sprung into action and taken care of the situation.
Like this guy.
Like this guy, right?
Mike
here.
actually saved somebody's life one time. Heimlich maneuver, somebody was choking.
Yes, we're having lunch on the bus, and a couple of people yelled, trying to get my attention. I went up, checked on him. He had some food stuck in his throat. We did the Heimlich, removed the object out of the throat. Everything was good to go from there. So that's what we're there for.
So there you go, everybody. Great community we've got here, great people helping make it a better place. Here to help the Honor Flight. Greater St. Louis Honor Flight. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
All right, these guys are saving lives. Give me some love.
Thank
for that.
you.
Appreciate you. Giddy up. All right, man.
Thank you.
Giddy up. All right, everybody. We'll be back for more. Giddy up.
And we take them to Washington, D.C. for a one-day trip to visit their memorials made in their honor. I want to thank a couple of our sponsors. First, Central County Fire for cooking our lunch. We have Central County Fire Veterans Fire Truck, Lake St. Louis participation, our 3-star sponsor, Enterprise Bank, and our 5-star sponsor, Dugan Contracting. And I'd like to thank our honor guard and Mike Boschert, our bugler. Right now, Keith's going to give a little more detail on honor flight and our veterans.
Thank you, Becky. You know, honor flight began back in 2005 with a doctor and his flying buddies taking a group of World War II veterans to D.C.
All right, before we finish up here, I want to share with everybody the end of this interview was dynamite. Key segment when they had the flyover from our designated military support people that are showing their contributions and support for this event, because it's just awesome what the community comes together to put together. And we had a great interview from one of our leaders in the community who's been served in our military. He's now 90 years old. But with that, let me go over here. I think we've got this set, and yeah, you'll be able to see this flyover. A great event and a real exciting day for the honor flight right here out of St. Louis. And please enjoy. Here we go. Giddy up.
Well, right. Well, right. Well, 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 right. Well, right. Well, right. Well,
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please put your eyes up to the sky and you'll see the E-25 Beta World War II.
Wow.
To have a chance to ride in that aircraft on June the 4th, I appreciate it if you not did that, because I bought tickets. I'd like to fly on it. We'd love to have your support for that. Have a great day playing golf. Thank you once again for being part of the Greater St. Louis Honor Flight Golf Tournament. Thanks, and have an outstanding day.
All right, everybody. With that, we hope everybody enjoys our rendition here, celebrating 100 leaders highlighted on our show. Stay tuned for more. Send us any leaders that you know that deserve to be highlighted and put on our show. Come join us on our set right here on the show. Thanks, everybody.